Sara Halabi, and I will be reading to you The Eyes of the Tower, my new short story, which I started posting on my Instagram account, Christian Writes. I hope you like it. Once upon a time, there was a faraway land that was close to every continent, where the seawater was sweet and the rivers never blended with it. The mountains were low and the valleys high. The snow never melted and the sun was too hot. A one nation land infinitely divided, its citizens honor the dead more than the living. Roses adorn the tombs and sage a scent shrine, skulls for the bride and chains for the child. A land where women dreamt of their husband's death while elders applauded the greedy thieves. Virgins were trampled and prostitutes were praised. Rock was a luxury after every ceremony, and God help you if you didn't take a share. Prisons were more beautiful than homes. That's what the eyes on the clouds said. And melodies were tastier than bread. A strange nation it was, for tears of joy filled the funerals, while cries of despair welcomed a soul at birth. Everyone was hypocritically happy, but no one could leave this land of the damned. And in one corner of that land, there was the highest tower you can imagine. A lonely girl observed the barbarity of her compatriots from the tower's only window. She wondered if hope had given up on her, if she'd ever leave her cage for once. Part 1. The grand day came. The girl sat quietly in her favorite white dress while waiting for the call. The blood-bathed view from her window showed the sunset shining on the mirror-like roofs of the miserable city. More than 6 months had passed since Isidora saw her great-grandmother. She was lucky if she got to meet the old woman more than 3 times a year. Finally, the door cracked open and an older man appeared and nodded to her. She followed Aid outside. The long passageway behind them had become a frail trail when she noticed his limp. Better not let her see you like this, otherwise you know what could happen to you, Isidora whispered. May perhaps the walls had ears. A didn't answer, but she knew he understood. After climbing down the staircase of her tower for 22 minutes, they arrived at the dining room. Her great-grandmother was in gloomy solitude. Isidora went closer to appreciate the features on her wrinkled face. Without greeting her great-granddaughter, the old woman laughed. What a curse I have to live to see you getting more beautiful, and I more. Nana, are you all right? The girl sat at Nana's left. Not since I lost your grandmother and mother. You already know that. The grey soup was already served in front of Isidora. It was her favorite dish. She grabbed a bronze spoon and picked one of the shiny white balls with some of the viscous liquid. It was cold. It felt good to have some real food after so long. Slowly, girl, they ain't jumping out of your plate. Isidora felt the heavy caresses of Nana's eyes on her skin. She could see her bony fingers out of the corner of her eye tapping at the table. She left the spoon aside and looked at the hollow and ageful face. It was now or never. I want to go out, Nana. Why are you so skinny and pale, girl? Eat, eat, instead of answering Nana order. The girl held her great-grandmother's eyes until the woman added, I knew you'd follow their steps someday. Do whatever you want, I don't care. I'm just tired. Once Isidora finished and returned to her room, Nana called Aid, who was by the door. We go after her. If she makes her grandmother's and mother's mistake, bring her flesh to me and whatever or whoever she leaves behind. Aid nodded and followed the girl. I hope she won't make the same mistakes because I won't tolerate this anymore, she thought to herself while taking a mouthful of the soup. Although she opened her mouth wide, one of the eyeballs slipped out of her spoon to the table. Part 2. The sun rose behind her tower as Isidora stood outside the gates of her until then prison. It was the first time she left the castle, the first time she ever took a step into the real world. Her eyes would no longer wander from house to house and from road to road in the comfort of her tower. The girl walked the forest's secret path which led to the first houses. Yet she heard a slow dragging behind her. She walked with a vengeance among the trees, and the dragging became desperate, as if trying to reach her. She halted all of a sudden and turned quickly, expecting to see a rabbit or a deer. But nothing was there. She sniffed the air, and a rotten scent filled her nostrils. Her heart rested. Isidora continued her path with the dragging behind her. This was the least she could have expected from Nana. Finally, she entered the city. The first houses looked imposing, like small crowns on each hill. From her tower, she found them boring and monotonous. All looked almost the same, shiny, perfect, quiet. People used to come and go while the children ran and played between the dwarf hills. Nothing seemed unchangeable, and she supposed that was how Nana wanted the city to be. As she advanced on the sidewalk, Isidora sensed someone watching her. Discreetly, she looked at each house, but as soon as her eyes fell on them, curtains shook and windows shut down. People were curious. Of course, she was an intruder. Uneasiness settled in her when the dragon stopped behind her, and a burst of evil laughter replaced it. A couple of meters away, Isidora saw eight clasped to the ground, and a group of two boys and a girl were cornering him, laughing. The children stopped as soon as they saw Isidora running to them. That was the first time she saw a child. Red puffy cheeks and lips welcomed her with silent smiles. The red lines beneath their meticulous eyes told her not to trust them. Someone pulled her dress. The little girl looked up with an awed expression. "We saw him first," said one of the boys. "He is with me." Isidora's calm voice wavered a bit, enough to let those children of the week know she was afraid. "She is pretty as my dolls." The little girl pulled Isidora's dress harder. "I want her." Horror crept up Isidora's spine when she saw one of the boys licking the old man's arm. "No!" That exclamation rolled from a woman dressed in pink, running toward them. "I told you to leave the poor alone, you devils," she continued at the top of her lungs. "If you're hungry, just tell me." But she stopped when she saw Isidora and her delicate garment. Isidora slipped from the girl's grasp and ran to help Aid up. "Milady, I'm sorry these kids were most rude to you and your servant." Isidora tilted her head at the fancy greeting. She had never considered herself anyone but merely a person. The woman caught the girl and one of the boys and dragged them to the nearest house while the older boy ran away. "You better come, young lady, if you don't want to be the toy of other unfortunate kids." Isidore and Nate exchanged some odd stares before they decided to follow the weird group into the house. Thank you very much for listening.